And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the plenary session. Now, we don't often think about what we wear when we're thinking about climate, the environment, sustainability, and the likes. And yet, we should, given the fashion industry's contribution to global carbon emissions. Now, the fashion industry has made significant strides in changing this, from breakthrough innovations in manufacturing, materials, upcycling, and recycling, as well as fashion initiatives such as a slow fashion movement. Leaders in the fashion industry have really been redefining the crossroads of fashion and sustainability. And this is what this next session is all about: pioneering fashion sustainability. It is my absolute honor to introduce to you our speakers and moderator, Mr. Riccardo Stefanelli, co-CEO and co-managing director at Brunello Cucinelli, Miss Natasha Frank, founder and CEO at Ion, Miss Omoyemi Akerele, CEO at the Lagos Fashion Week, Mr. Federico Marchetti, former CEO at Yux Net-a-Porter Group, Mr. Patrick Shalhoub, Group President at Shalhoub Group, and the moderator for this session, my namesake, Tanya Breyer, host and executive producer at CNBC. Let's give them a warm round of applause as they come to stage.
So much for that wonderful introduction. And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that we are finding you well. You beautifully introduced my esteemed panel. But what I'm going to do is actually ask each and every one of you, because you feel so far away from me, Patrick. So, so let me start with you. I'd just like you to introduce yourself in more depth to our audience and talk about the initiatives that you're working on right now. Because, of course, the theme is all about sustainability in fashion, how the fashion industry can stop affecting carbon emissions. Patrick, I'm going to start with you.
Thank you. So my name is Patrick Shalhoub. I'm the group president of Shalhoub Group of Companies, which is a group of companies established in Dubai and covering all the Middle East. So we are basically retailers and partners of mainly luxury brand into the Middle East. Our drive on sustainability have started in 2008, so 15 years ago, at a time where probably, at least in this part of the world, there wasn't much awareness about sustainability. And basically it was for a very simple reason. We are a family business, and for families, the most important is sustainability. But how can you be sustainable if you are not living in a sustainable world? So it was purely and simply the reason where we started. And the more we digged into it, the more we have felt that there is a lot of things which we could do. And we moved from being, I would say, an observer to being an actor to being probably more now an activist into the field. We developed a strategy a few years ago, and our strategy, the idea is to put sustainability in the heart of all our strategies. And within the strategy which we defined for sustainability, it was basically on three elements: people, because everything starts with people, planet, because it's about the planet, and partners, because we really believe in a world where there must be a lot of collaboration in order to be able to move the needle. We have engaged quite a lot, and again, our engagement have started, obviously, I wouldn't focus much on the people part and the diversity, inclusion, on all the elements which are pertaining to people, but really on the planet. And on the planet-wise, we have felt that we need to make sure that we are doing the right thing, that we are doing our business in a responsible way. And doing the business in a responsible way means doing it also in a very sustainable way. And we committed ourselves to be on the climate, committed to 1.5 degrees, committed to be net zero by 2040, so hopefully a little bit more than the country which is putting it at 2050. And we started trying to make sure that it is everywhere in everything which we do. It goes from the way we are building our stores to make sure that we have the right material which we are using in order to be able to be sustainable, the way we would be able to make our waste management and waste recycling. At the time when we started, there wasn't even waste management into the malls or into the cities, so we put a lot of pressure in our partners to do it, to really making sure that we are engaging into sustainability in our procurements, in the products we sell, in the circular economy, in making sure of making the resell, the second love, and making sure that we are engaged into it. And all of this, trying to measure it in a scientific way and trying to move the needle as much as we can.
Patrick, thank you so much for those opening remarks. Omiyemi, of course, you've worked in the fashion industry for over 20 years now, and you're credited for contributing to the acceleration of the African creative economy. What are you seeing?
So I'm going to start by saying I work for a company called Star House Files. We're a fashion business development agency based in Lagos, and our focus is providing opportunities for access to markets, discovering new talent. We have a showcase platform, Lagos Fashion Week, provide opportunities for capacity building and skills development and advocacy. For us, we realize that there's been quite a bit of interesting conversations happening around sustainability in the last 5 years, which sometimes suggests that Africa is trying to play catch up when you talk about sustainability. And then, it's taking us working with our designers, working with our creators to be able to explain that, our community is the starting point of our creative process. We're passionate about ensuring that creators and creatives within our ecosystem contribute significantly to creating opportunities for socioeconomic development by ensuring that they empower the creatives and artisans in the communities that they work in. We have different initiatives that helps to support this, helps to support the designers. We don't really call it like educating them, more like a reinforcement of what they already know, that it's our way of being, to reduce waste, to provide opportunities for social and sustainable development across Africa. So with our initiatives like Green Access, Fashion Focus, we discover new talent, provide opportunities for accelerating them, mentorships, to sort of all geared towards creating that level playing field where they begin to understand that we might be in the global south and, there might be a lot of nuances and words around sustainability or the circular fashion economy from the global north, that it really is okay for us to strengthen, our understanding and our beliefs around some of these practices. And which is also, which is always about trying to we ensure that we close the loop. B, ensure that, the environment and the communities you source in, you leave them in a much better place than when you started from. Ensuring that, we create that opportunities for, celebrating our shared, it could be something as minute as celebrating our shared history of craftsmanship, which is something that's peculiar from country to country across the continent. So yes, sustainability is alive in Africa. It has been for centuries and decades. We're also, it's also quite interesting to sit and listen to conversations around this, bearing in mind that, we are the continent that's one of the continents that's contributed the least, when we're thinking about carbon emissions and all of that. So, I'm here to listen to my co-panelists as well to understand how best we can contribute to strengthening not just the circular fashion economy, but sustainability as a whole globally through creators.
Well, Riccardo's just about to tell you, aren't you, Riccardo, from Brunello Cucinelli?
It's my turn. Thank you, Marianne. Hi everyone, I'm Riccardo Stefanelli. I'm the CEO of the fashion company called Brunello Cucinelli. And despite what we produce and sell, that is basically cashmere sweater, um, and so fashion products, so we are definitely one of the responsible for the impact and environmental impact in the world of our industry. We do believe that one of the definition of sustainability is well related to the word longevity. So one of the secrets of sustainability for us is to start to run our companies and manage our companies with this longevity mindset. That means to think in the long term and not in a short terms. What does it mean exactly? It means that we believe that any actions is must be guided by various shape of sustainability. There is the environmental sustainability for sure, where we have to take actions as a managers, as an entrepreneur, as a businessman, but there are other shapes, other sorts of sustainability that, for example, the cultural one, the spiritual one, the moral one, the economic one. Because we believe, for example, that if we don't create the condition for our supply chain to be economically and financially sustainable, there won't be this supply chain. There won't be our company or company like us in the future, so there won't be longevity of our industry. So that's why we believe that every actions that we are asked and we will take in the future must involve different shape. So every action must be guided not only by the idea to reduce carbon footprint, or not only, but also to figure it out how to create the better condition, to create a supply chain that will be sustainable in the future, to create the condition to put man as the end of our business and not the mean of our business.
Thank you, Riccardo. And Natasha, as founder and CEO of E.ON, technology, how are you going to unlock the potential of the world around us?
Hi, thank you so much. Really exciting to be here with all of you who I know well. By way of introduction, I'm Natasha, founder and CEO of E.ON. We at E.ON, obviously, like everyone here, we believe the fashion industry has a systems problem and a business model problem. I'm sure you've all heard about sustainable fashion for years, yet the fashion industry still is producing billions of clothes in the global north, many of them ending up in the global south, and the business model of the industry has not changed. The business model is based on, produce and sell more products and generate more revenue, and you have one point of sale. And then those products sort of disappear into the world. So when we talk about how to kind of change the fashion industry, it really hasn't resulted in a lot of systems change to date, if we can be honest. And so we believe at E.ON, and I think, Federico has led this charge with us, that digital product passports or product identity is one of the single biggest leverage points into a sustainable model for commerce, right? If we can ID every single product, if we can steward that product through a transparent life cycle from the moment it's produced and onwards to managing that product through new business models, through resale, through regeneration, we can unlock new business models for the industry. We can enable brands to profitably manage these new circular models. We can enable those resources to end up back in, as Omiami described, in closing the loop. And we can make a business model that allows brands to generate more revenue, not just based on the production of more product and more consumption of resources. So at E.ON, we've been really privileged to work with brands and retailers on implementing their digital product passports. And Federico with Yux Net-a-Porter led our first implementation of product ID. And now across the EU, we're seeing a new legislative mandate across the EU that will actually mandate every brand in the next few years creates products with item level ID. So hopefully we start to see some of the systems change that I think we're all aiming for.
waiting to hear from. Thank you. And Federico, I mean, so many adjectives describes you. I mean, pioneer, inventor, tech entrepreneur, everything. Please tell us, what is your focus now?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. So I started 24 years ago, in '99, with my company called Yux. That was the first fashion e-commerce in the world. Then I bought Net-a-Porter in 2015, so I created the Yux Net-a-Porter group as a founder. And across my entrepreneurial career, I've always been focused on sustainability. Cars, the packaging completely recycled. So it was a couple of years earlier than, let's say, for example, the Italian Chamber of Fashion. And then my last, my last thing that I did as a CEO of Yux Net-a-Porter was to sign this sustainability plan until 2030. So I've been always passionate about this. When I sold the company to Richemont 5 years ago, I asked myself, so what can I do now? I cannot retire. I mean, I'm too young. I was 49. And I thought, okay, my passion is about sustainability. So as in 2000, I've helped all the fashion brands to do e-commerce, because in 2000, they didn't know how to do e-commerce, and they needed someone to help them. Now, in 2021, a couple of years ago, I can focus and give back all the luck that I had and help them with my innovation spirit in sustainability. So that was, let's say, my idea. In the meantime, I met His Majesty the King Charles III, and he asked me to come up with the project. I mean, I wanted to make it short, but he asked me to come up with a project. I came up with a very, very good project that was called the Modern Artisan, using, for example, also the digital passport that I have implemented a few years before with Yux Net-a-Porter. And then he started asking me also to put together, as a chairman, this fashion task force under the umbrella of the Sustainable Markets Initiative, which is, like a vast organization with many task forces, now around 20, if I'm not wrong. So the fashion one, I put together around 15 members, few brave CEOs, very committed, because I wanted to make my work easier. And it's better to invite the people that I know that they are already committed. So from my old Italian friends, for example, Brunello Cucinelli, or Armani, where I sit on his board as the only non-family member, to the British Burberry and Stella, to the French Chloé, owned by Richemont, that was my former shareholder and that bought my company. And I've tried to give a couple of very clear guiding principles that, in a very short summary, is all about action. So there's no space for talking, plans, KPIs, framework, reports, white papers, consultants. No way. Stop talking, just do it. And that was let's say, it's not a think tank, it's an action tank. And in a couple of years, I can tell you later if you want, we managed to do, amazing, concrete projects, and of which I'm very proud of.
Thank you, Federico. I do want to ask you about those more in depth later, but I want to ask Riccardo about the Himalayan Fashion Lab, because you were on stage here last year launching it. Tell us about it and what progress has been made.
Thank you. Yeah, Himalaya Fashion Regenerative Lab is one of the projects that, thanks to Federico and thanks to His Majesty King Charles III, we launched last year, and it's as given by name, it's an agricultural regenerative project that aim to restore the lands of Western and Eastern Himalaya in order to give back dignity to the work and to the job of people and create the condition for them to live, to continue to live as a nomad in a very tough part of the world, but is where they live and where they were born, basically. So we are trying to create the condition for them to stay and to create an economical and financial environment, an ecosystem that give back dignity, give back economic, sustainable tools and means to create a supply chain of this beautiful fiber that is cashmere, or better, how they call them, pashmina, that is one of the most beautiful and highest quality fiber in the world. What we did so far, at the end of the 18 months of project, almost 2 years of project, we demonstrated that it's possible to create food where there was no food anymore for both people and animals. So we create a landscape, a project that can be scalable in the next years, and create the condition for the people to live that allow them to be, let's say, to cultivate their lands and to grow up their animals, and those animals produce the best fiber in the world. And thanks to this production, this supply chain, we are buying already the first 500 kilograms of pashmina, and are, let's say, we are starting to produce the first product. Now, what is the challenge? Yeah. For the next 2 years, we are here to reconfirm the support to this project. And the targets of the next year, the next 2 years will be to scale the project and to pass from a territory of 50 hectares to 100 hectares, applying these agricultural regenerative technique. But also, the goal will be to create the condition for the human to live better. Now, in that place that I had the luck to visit a few months ago, last May, believe me, it's not an easy trip, an easy travel to do it, because you have to travel for 4 or 5 hours before meeting someone, up to 5,300 meters. Yeah. If you are not well trained, it can be difficult. You have some headache at a certain point. But when you go there, you understand that, unfortunately, if you have a health problem, if you have an emergency, there are no doctors there. If you are pregnant, there are no doctors that are ready to visit you and to support you and to assist you. So the next 2 years will be dedicated to create the health services condition, and also to create a training program, educational program for the young individuals living there. Again, in order to create the condition for them to live where they were born.
Sounds like a fantastic initiative, Ricardo, really. I mean, what about waste? I mean, that's such a huge challenge for the fashion industry.
Yeah, I'm just going to, touch on what he said a little bit, because when I think about certain parts of Africa, for example, South Africa, where you have Angora farms and mohair. As a matter of fact, I met someone here just like 30 minutes ago. We're talking about it, and he was telling me about his beautiful farm, where people, I mean, where mohair is sort of like cultivated and, you know, regenerative farming and all of that. And it just reminds me of several communities across Africa that, you know, not just beautiful fabrics like that, but, you know, there's so much more silk, you know, from silk that's sourced like in Tanzania, and just like beautiful fabrics and beautiful textiles, you know, that go back generations, you know, like several generations, and coming back. So that's always very important, because a lot of times when you think about Africa, those conversations are not really at the forefront in terms of, you know, what our fashion is really made of. And it's always important for us and to us at Star House Flowers Lagos Fashion Week that we sort of put it out there that, you know, the fashion and apparel ecosystem has the capacity to create that dual role of providing support for not just creative entrepreneurs, but like different communities across the continent. And which brings me to a topic that I don't really like talking about, which is fast fashion waste. Because if you look at the headlines today, when you're talking about fashion from the continent, the first thing you really, the most, I mean, newsworthy thing is not about these communities of people across the continent who are doing amazing things. It's about fast fashion waste that's being dumped from the global north to the global south. I'm like, really? So we can't even have airtime now? We're still, you know, they're talking about Africa and we're still talking about your waste. Like, really, you know, can we sort of, can we stop for a moment, you know, and stop? But it's a conversation that cannot be stopped. I do understand that because it's important. But I'm just frustrated as someone who advocates consistently, day and night, passionately about these communities of people who are doing amazing work, you know, regenerative farming, regenerative cotton, you know, artisans working day and night. But we're still talking about how do we ensure that the global north stops sending, you know, fast fashion waste to different parts of Africa. It's so simple. It's overproduction, you know. Let's call it, you know, and that's what separates the global south from the global north in that sense. You know, there's this perception of, you know, the more you produce, and it all boils down to capitalism, don't get me wrong, but we come from, I come from, you know, I was raised to believe and to understand that, listen, at the end of the day, it's not just about, it's about cultivating what you can consume in a way that doesn't deplete resources, in a way that doesn't create waste. You know, clothes are made to last and made to last for a very long time. You know, if you have craftsmen working on products, it takes a while to, you know, to produce things. So definitely, most of the time, people are producing what people want to consume. So, I mean, it's important for us to just stop having these conversations, because it's tiring, eh? Overproduction is a problem. Stop producing too much. We're producing too much, and when you overproduce, what happens is, you know, it goes to different parts of the world where it affects people. So let's stop having panel after panel after panel belaboring the fact that, you know, this is what the problem is. Overproduction leads to overconsumption, which leads to excess, which leads to waste, which affects people in far-flung places around the world that have no business dealing with this in the first place, and adversely affects their own natural communities of people. I mean, sorry if I get passionate about this, because it's...
No, of course. Absolutely.
So I want to talk about artisans. I want to talk
Yes.
about, you know, a heritage of craftsmanship. I want to show you the beauty of my continent, of who's doing what. I don't want to be talking about fast fashion.
Unfortunately, fast fashion is still part of the map, and it's still part of,
I agree.
what the fashion industry is dealing with. Natasha, how does one change consumer behavior and awareness?
Well, I don't think you do, right? And I think the exact problem is it's, you know, overproduction and waste that's produced, you know, by fast fashion brands, and really all brands, right? Like, we're all making products. I think it's a scapegoat to just blame fast fashion brands. And there was a really interesting article written about that the other day in Forbes too. Like, we're all makers, right? And so how do we, everyone in the world, whether you're making in Africa, whether you're making in New York, whether you're making in Italy, how do you make responsibly, right? And how do you make your products in a way that recognizes that those products are part of a bigger system, right? They will end up anywhere in the world. So it's not like, I think we have historically like used technologies to ID products from point of production to point of sale, right? Everything gets a barcode. Everything is ID'd from the moment it's produced to the moment it's sold. And then we sell it and we say goodbye, right? And those products go wherever they do in the world, into becoming waste. And I think that right now where the world is moving with product ID is you need to be responsible for that waste, right? And that's why that product is getting an ID, so that it can be stewarded back into, and accountability can be brought back to the maker so it doesn't become someone else's problem. And I think that's the cycle of, using technology to hold accountability, because today there's no way to bring accountability to the life cycle of those products and materials.
And I think I like what you're saying, that because if you're starting, if it's right at the start, I guess it puts the onus on the people who are producing to make better, produce better, so that at the end of the day, the garment has a longer lifespan. Yeah. And at the same time, it also helps with, when we think about African questions and conversations around appropriation and all of that, it helps you identify authentic, original craftsmanship from far-flung places, not just in Africa, like, communities across the world.
If I may, there is a longevity by design. So that's exactly what they were talking about. So yes. When you have the idea of something, of a product that can be a fashion product, can be a car, can be whatever, you must create from the beginning with the idea that can last forever. Yeah. And we've lost this kind of perception, not we as a brand, not we as a company, but in general the industry. I don't want to point out fast fashion whatsoever, but we have lost this idea to create something that can last. Even the idea of that is good to recycle, but when you recycle, in some way you have to destroy the manufacturing process, the artisanal project, the artisanal work that is behind any product in fashion. It's better to repair, it's better to donate, it's better to create the condition, also thanks to technology now. Technology gives us the possibility to do it, to allow this product to live longer and last forever.
Thank you, Riccardo. I am actually going to open questions out to you, the audience, just while you're thinking about what you'd like to ask the panel. Federica, what about collaboration between companies for greater good?
In our task force, I think that the ingredients of the recipe, so because you can ask, how did you manage to do all these concrete things in just a couple of years, no? And I think that there are probably 5 ingredients that we managed to all agree upon. So the first one is, as I said, action. So we all agree that we want to act, and it's in terms of the thinking, is the opposite as a saying. By 2030 we'll do something. By 2040 we'll do something. We start now to do things, and then we know that we're gonna make mistakes. We need to fine tune. We need to change. We need to, but we start now, and we don't wait for like a longer time. It's the opposite approach, basically, rather than the institutions or politics. Then they say like in 20 years we will reach certain things. The second one, so it's action, and the second one is collaboration. Back to your question. The fashion task force, all the members, they collaborate, they act open book, they share best practices. There's no space for prima donnas. There's no space for ego. And believe me, in the fashion industry...
Well, Federico, that's...
it's excluding the present.
Excluding the presence, obviously. Excluding the members. But I've been in the fashion industry, and I have seen many things that I cannot tell you. And
sure.
and also because otherwise, the whole, let's say, atmosphere in the task force is not good. So if you are like this, you're out, which is a very simple rule.
Yeah.
And third, I think is diversity and variety, because as I said, I put together 15 members coming from the most disparate countries, as I said, like Europe, but also like, for example, here from the Emirates, the Dubai Mall of my friend Mohamed Alabar, Germany, America, and then we have not only brands, but we have also retailers, e-tailers, technology company. Another one is Aura, which is a consortium between LVMH and Prada that joined us recently. And so all these things, so putting together around the table, all these diverse players coming from different countries, coming from different sectors of the same industry, help them to collaborate more. Okay. And innovation is the other ingredient. Innovation, because that's my contribution. In the end, that's the only thing I can contribute to this group of brave men and women, because I believe that only through innovation, and not only technology, innovation in general can be also innovation of thinking. So you don't need necessarily technology to innovate. Technology helps, but you can innovate even just watching things and thinking to do in a different way. So only, I think, innovation can save our planet, because otherwise, if we are the same and we continue to do the same things, unfortunately, you cannot tell someone that is the CEO of a company saying, stop producing, start producing less, make 20% less margin, make 20% less profit, make 20% less growth. They will say, sorry, but I cannot do it. So, but with the innovation, you can start changing the world. And last but not least, I would say pioneering, the pioneering spirit, to be the first to do something. I've always tried to be the first in many things, like in my previous career. Sometimes it's also difficult to be the first, because if you arrive second, you know all the mistakes of the first one, and then actually you can do better. But to be the first in what we're doing, so for example, in the fashion industry, our task force has been the first to implement the digital passport, to implement it. So if you go to the Chloé shops, boutiques in Paris, all the collection is with digital passport. So you can try it. And when you pave the way, many other people then will follow. Usually it's like this. Now there are the innovators and the followers. And I believe that by paving the way, then I see already that many other brands are doing the digital passport, and then more and more and more. And probably in 5 years' time, everybody will have a digital passport. Everybody will do regenerative projects with cashmere or with cotton in Puglia. For example, another one is with Armani. We brought back in Puglia, after 60 years, the production of cotton, regenerative cotton. 60 years ago was replaced by polyester. So can you imagine, how can we change completely, regions, people, production, supply chain?
I think we have some musical accompaniment. Don't worry. That's a good cue. Thank you so much, because I'm going to ask some questions from the audience. Yes.
One, thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom, expertise. It's extremely inspiring to be here and listen to you guys. My question goes to Patrick, and also other people can feel free to add. I think the challenge of large companies where you are not the owner of the company is you have to listen to shareholders. Right? Large family businesses, we come from Hong Kong, there's a lot of businesses that we operate. The ability of the decision maker to make a perhaps unpopular decision, right, that has a long-term strategic value is something that's unique and exclusive to family-run companies. So as you think about the future of actually navigating the challenge of the appeal of fast fashion, large product, low volume, low margin, high volume stuff, versus things that sustain. To your point, I'm not Ome yummy. going to a place where you actually can create things that last a long time, like how do you sort of think about that as you design your companies? And are you willing to make those courageous decisions as a family?
So it's a very good question. And because we're running out of time, I'm going to have to ask you to answer quite shortly. Apologies. Patrick,
No, so
the final
first,
answers.
it's much easier in family businesses because in family businesses you always think about the long term more than the short term. But be it in a family business or be it in a business today with shareholders, the shareholders are not stupid anymore. They are looking not only at the short term value.
Anymore? You mean they
Not
were,
anymore,
Patrick?
No, but the reality is that we were always taken by short-term revenue and the interest, and today we are looking much more on long-term. So the idea, we have to be transparent and we have to explain what is the reason why we are doing it. And today, if we want to be sustainable and to move into the right direction, it doesn't mean that it will not be profitable and something which will give value short term or long term, but you just have to explain it with a lot of conviction in order to do it. Yes, it could be tough with some of the shareholders or some of your stakeholders, but it's totally feasible, and thanks God, it's more and more there, and it's encouraged today with sustainable finance and many other tools.
Thank you, Patrick. Omiyemi?
So I think for me, I'm just going to say that it gets to a certain level where it cannot be emotional decisions anymore. Key things today in 2023, transparency, traceability. And I understand that the bigger the company is, it becomes a bit more complex to be able to trace, when it comes to supply chain management. But I guess that's where it comes to decision making around the kind of people you hire to ensure that, nothing is lost within that process, especially traceability. So it's very complex, but I believe that it can be done.
Ricardo?
I think I agree with Patrick. If you explain to investors what does it mean long term, they perfectly understand that there is only one way to invest on company that is long term and sustainability. I truly believe that every company must be transparent now, and the secret for the future would be not only the purpose of the company, but to answer the question of for who you do business.
Natasha, we're being bleeped.
I believe that basically every time you make a product that you'll be, sort of renting it from the earth. And that's why you need an ID system. Like when you went to Blockbuster and you rented a movie, right? You're going to bring it back somewhere. And they used IDs to do that. So I think we're using the products and we're developing new systems to make that possible.
Federica, the last word is with you. Make it good.
Just to add something different from what I agree on everything they said. So it's definitely about long term, short term. It's about taking risks also. And to take risks, you need also to be not only innovative, but also creative, which is, creativity in the managers, in the CEOs, is something that is underestimated right now. But you need to be creative to come up with solutions that are out of the box. So I think also the creativity side of the business should be more and more important to save the world.
And one more argument is your employees. People working today, especially the youth, are very committed to have a purpose and to be sustainable. So
Yes,
you have a lot of pressure
true.
from the inside, not only from your shareholders.
Absolutely.
And culture. I think UNESCO, honestly, this is really important. Culture, a UNESCO report just, culture is the ultimate, regenerative resource. So I think it also goes back to what's the, organization's culture. It's regenerative. It's the one thing that, it's not commodified in that way. And I think if everyone really goes back to the heart of it, it can go a long way.
Well, we could have continued the discussion forever. We hope to see you again. Thank you so much for joining me. My wonderful panel, Patrick, Omiyemi, Ricardo, Natasha, and Federico. Bravo. Thank you so much. Thank you.